Hey, we are live. My name is Dave. Thank you for joining us tonight for our TCSTV Live Tech Talk on the Panasonic S5 IIX. Now, there is a bunch of work going on behind the scenes here. Tonight we have Gary and Drew, part of our TCSTV Live Dream Team, are making sure that everything goes out without a hitch tonight as we talk about this camera. Now, part of what I really like about live streams is the ability to interact with everybody online. So if you want to join the chat, you're more than welcome to post questions. We'll get to as many as we can throughout the discussion here. But if you don't want to join the chat and you still want to be part of this and get a question in, you can simply email me. It's very simple. This is dave@thecamrastore.com. Now, tonight we have not just one, but two, but three special guests. We have Trish from Panasonic joining us. We also have Umar from Panasonic, who's brand new from Panasonic, who's joining us. And we're going to bring Drew on, our own videographer, to talk about this exciting camera. So, without further ado, Trish and Umar, thank you for joining us so much tonight.
Well, thanks for having us, Dave.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, so what are we in store for tonight? What's going on?
Well, of course, we're here to talk about the incredible new stealth camera from Panasonic, the S5 IIX, our new all-black video-centric camera. You know, very exciting to have this camera coming very soon to Canada.
Now, were people demanding an all black, or is this like an internal thing? They're like, let's make it super stealthy. Forget the white logo. Let's just go super stealthy, all black. Are you trying to save on gaffer tape? Is this what's going on?
Well, I think there is a need for it. And we've had customers say to us in the past, you know, when they show up at a commercial shoot, it's just easier if there's no branding visible, you know, yeah, and that stealth camera. So we just, you know, as usual, listened to our customers and decided, hey, let's do it. The Batman camera, let's go for it.
Oh, that's fantastic. So, and Umar, so you're quite new to the Panasonic, I hear.
Mm-hmm. I just started working with Panasonic. I think it's about a month now.
Okay. And what can you tell us about your background a little bit? What brought you to Panasonic?
Oh, I've been an avid Panasonic shooter since day one. So I do videos. I work in like film and TV industry as well. So I've been doing that for a long time. And then I saw an opportunity to work with Panasonic, and here I am.
Fantastic.
And you know, I get to you know, shoot with the awesome cameras what Panasonic makes, S5 IIX, especially these days, and the S1H.
That's fantastic. And before we go too much further, I'm going to invite our own videographer, Drew, who's been working with TCSTV for a long time now, putting out tons of episodes. We spent all day together in the sun, so if my complexion looks like I'm just, you know, stepped out of a tanning salon after a long night's sleep in there, this is why. But yeah, Drew's been with us for a long time. He and the TCSTV crew, we've been shooting with Panasonic for a long time ourselves, the GH5 and now the GH6, and maybe the G5,
yeah.
the G5
IIX. Yeah. No, happy to be here. Thanks you.
All right. So, what can you tell us about this camera? Why is it so exciting for you guys?
I mean, our customers really embraced the S5 Mark II when we announced it, and we actually announced the X at the same time because we realized that there was two separate customers, and you know, we've always been known for our video, I guess, specialties and our video features, but we also felt we didn't want to penalize customers who didn't want those higher grade video features. So that's why we split it into two cameras, the S5 II and the S5 IIX. So the X, for a mere $300 Canadian more, adds multiple new video features that I think customers will really love. Things like both ProRes RAW internal, ProRes RAW output, B-RAW output, 800 megabits per second all intra shooting, our USB to SSD shooting, and then wireless and wired IP streaming. So there's a lot of extras that you get on this camera, which
look at these videographers just like nodding their heads. So they're just like, this is fantastic. So,
yeah.
I mean, honestly, like 300, the amount of extra features that you get for $300 is absolutely insane. So, no, 100% agree with the choice to put out the X.
let's take one little step back there with the S5 II. What's one of the big advantages to the S5 II and the S5 IIX over the original S5?
You know, there was multiple upgrades. When we do a Mark II camera, we try not to just make a few small upgrades. We actually really overhauled this camera from top to bottom. So it's got a new sensor, a new engine, the new phase detect autofocus, which our customers love. It's got new features like real-time LUT that is, I think, very exciting as well. So there was multiple things that got upgraded for the S5 II. And then, we decided to go even farther and add more for the S5 IIX. So I think, it's, besides the body itself, there's just so many different things between the S5 and the S5 II. It's hard to list them all at one time. But I think, customers will be pleasantly surprised when they start looking into the specs and what you get for that price.
Yeah, I have to admit that. I mean, when you start looking at the specs, I mean, when we had the our meeting on the specs of this, Drew was drooling. Actually, it was.
Well, maybe a little, but no, it was incredibly compelling, and I mean, the phase detect alone was, had us all, perking our heads up in phase. So
Yes,
yeah.
finally, we got there.
Yeah. I mean, contrast detect, I've been using the GH5 and the GH6 for a very long time.
What lens is on there? Is that a manual focus lens, Drew?
No. We're normally using the 10 to 25 and the 25 to 50, which love it that you guys provided those. But the Laowa we were shooting some anamorphic stuff. But no, honestly, the contrast detect worked for a good amount of time, but the tracking on phase detect is really, I would say, a step up in terms of just action sports, wildlife, things like that. So definitely appreciated that at the very least.
Now, Umar, when did you jump into Panasonic with your own gear? Were you doing a GH4, GH3, GH2?
GH5S.
GH5S?
That was the camera I was using earlier.
Okay.
Love that camera. I wanted to get my hands on the S1H, but I couldn't get that on time. But hopefully, now I have the S1H, and I've been shooting most of my stuff on the S1H.
Now, have you noticed stepping up from micro four thirds into full frame? What's been the biggest difference for you?
Of course, micro four thirds is like a different market. So if, let's say, you are a nature photographer, or you shoot a lot of sports, so the amount of coverage you get with the lenses, you have more choices for the micro four thirds, versus when you come to the full frame, it's a different setup. Even using cinema lenses, they're mostly APS-C, and now you see a lot of more full frame lenses coming up. So this way, with the Panasonic image quality, 14 stops of dynamic range, raw output to B-RAW or the ProRes RAW, or even shooting ProRes internally, you can use cinema lenses at the same time. So that gives you, a whole new world to cinema shooting.
Interesting. So you've got a question here. It's will Panasonic continue incorporating DFD algorithms into the phase detection system? And how are the two integrated? At what point or situations does the camera default back to contrast?
So we have 3 different types of autofocusing working together in the camera. So there's phase, there's contrast, and then our new human face and eye detection, a brand new algorithm that we have as well. So depending on what the situation is, the camera may be using one of those 3 or multiple ones at any time. And, there's settings you can do where you can pick, say, for instance, zone with face and eye. So it's actually using phase plus the new human body face and eye algorithm together to make sure that you get the best autofocus possible. And I just want to say about our new algorithm. So it actually is a 4-part algorithm. It's looking first for eyes, then faces, then heads, then bodies. So say your subject is turned to the side or turned fully around and it doesn't see an eye or face, it's still going to look for a head or a body. So it is very intuitive that way, and I think it picks up a lot of things that previous or contrast only missed, which is great news for our customers.
Okay, now you also have subject detection when it comes to animals. You can do animals and humans. Yes. Does it detect a human first if it's standing next to a bear, or is it doing how does it all work? Is it humans first?
Well, I hope the human's not standing next to the bear.
Well, you never know. I got pretty close today. We're at the zoo.
But yeah, you actually have to pick between human or animal. So usually when it's animal, I mean, it's picking up. It says it's cats, dogs, and birds, but I know there's been a lot of testing going on by people, and it picks up many different types of animals just beyond those three. So it is very good about identifying moose and bears and everything else that we have in Canada. So, yeah, it is very good at picking up the different kinds of animals.
That's good. Now, between the two cameras, is there any actual hardware differences between the cameras, or is it more just in the programming and the firmware?
The body is exactly the same, except for the obviously blacked out, brand name and the controls and everything. But everything else is internal. So you can unlock a few of these features on the S5 II if you buy our upgrade kit for $129. You will get access to ProRes RAW output on the S5 II, but not BRAW. Oh, sorry. You do get ProRes RAW plus BRAW. Excuse myself there, for $129. You also will get our live view composite for photos. So again, the customer has a choice depending on what their budget is. Do they want to pay the $300 to get all the video features, or do they want the S5 II and then just buy the upgrade software to get just a few of those features? So again, we're trying to make it easy for people to fit all the gear that they need into their budget.
And you get a black marker so you can black out the lettering too, so it's like...
Yeah, exactly. Or just your gaffer tape,
Try to save on gaffer tape. That's the key thing.
So you talked, there's all kinds of like video-centric kind of stuff going on here. You mentioned the built-in LUTs. Can you explain sort of in layman terms what a LUT is for people who don't know?
Sure. You want to go ahead? Yeah. Sure.
So a LUT is a lookup table. So what it gives you get like possibilities that you can create your own custom LUTs. Like what I mean by LUTs is like you can create your custom looks on a computer. You can do it like on editing suites, especially like DaVinci Resolve. You can export those LUTs. You can bring them to your Panasonic S5 IIX or the S5 II. Gives you that option. And then this way you can apply those LUTs internally in the camera to your pictures or your videos. You can buy free LUTs, like you can download free LUTs, or you can buy LUTs, or you can make your custom LUTs. So that gives you so many options. So when it comes to controlling your picture look, the colors, the tonalities, it's limitless. So there's like tons of options at the same time.
So opposed to you, and what is the advantage to baking in a LUT in the footage rather than doing it in post? Or can you do it in post?
Oh yeah, no, we do it all the time in post. Vlog has been one of our go-tos for days when even today, honestly, we were still shooting Vlog just because we're running into situations where there's such massive contrast or exposure differences in specific areas. It's way easier to shoot Vlog and then grade after the fact. So I have like 2 or 3 LUTs. Honestly, the LUT library for me is one of the most compelling things because I have like 3 LUTs that I like to use for taking Vlog to usually like Rec 709 or something similar. And so being able to bake that in directly onto the footage it was really handy when we were using the S5 II and the S5 IIX. It definitely saved at least a little bit of time in the editing suite. So, I mean, for me, that's worth it, just period. Yeah.
See, I just want to add one more thing. With like LUT, you don't, like if you, like with your custom LUTs, like I said, you can even buy film simulation LUTs. So people who are out there, like who are film stock lovers, they get that simulation in the camera at the same time. So, like I said, like so many options you have.
Yeah.
And it works for photos, not just video. So if you have
yes.
presets that you've already made, presets that you've bought, you can as well load them in the camera for your photos too. So
still photographers
we
get to use
totally
LUTs too. I
Oh.
thought that was a video only thing. No.
I thought that was just an Instagram only thing.
Sepia only. Yeah.
So
the other thing is that you can apply the LUTs, like you can bake them in on the files, or at the same time you can just use them for viewing purposes, like for monitoring purposes as well. So you get like both ways, like both options.
Yeah. You wouldn't be the first person to, or I haven't been the first person to complain about, first time using logarithmic footage is weird.
Yeah.
The zebras suddenly take over and you're like, I have no idea what I'm looking at anymore. So yeah, definitely, even viewing the LUTs and being able to adjust things on the fly is definitely a nice boon.
Now, both you guys have come from Micro Four Thirds world where you had options for vlog. When you switch to full frame, right? Do you notice a big difference as far as the exposure latitude you get shooting vlog on a full frame?
Oh yeah. I mean, the differences in terms of the ISOs that I'm able to use on the S5 II and the S5 IIX versus the GH6. Admittedly, on most days in Calgary, we don't really have too much of an issue. Normally, I'm using an ND filter to remove light or take my exposure down. But you run into situations and being able to comfortably punch above 6400 ISO and know that my footage is going to still come out tack sharp. There's going to be no real softening of the image. It was definitely really nice for at least a couple of catch situations when we were shooting with it.
So in shooting in low light?
The other thing I want to add, like Micro Four Thirds versus like full frame, the major difference you see is like you get more control on your shallow depth of field. So if you're that kind of person like who would like to throw a lot of things out of focus, you get like better, because again, like with the lens selection and all that, and the full frame advantage versus the Micro Four Thirds. That's how I look at it as well.
Is there such a thing as a full frame disadvantage?
Wise, it doesn't matter.
Is there a reason why you would not shoot full frame and you would step back to Micro Four Thirds?
It is actually interesting because with the S5 II compared to like the GH6, all I is that was the point of the S5 IIX, was there was a whole number of all I options, and the GH6 full sensor readout across every single one, 4K 60, 422 10-bit, zero overheating issues. So smaller sensor, it's just way easier to handle thermally. And I mean the physical size between the cameras and in terms of what they're putting out, I mean the GH6 still comfortably punches above its weight class. And so like for our YouTube stuff, like I wouldn't say that full frame's not a nice benefit for sure. It's always nice to have, but this has been rocking for us for so long. So
yeah, we're spoiled. We have the 10 to 25 and the 25 to 50 1.7 lenses, which are fantastic, and the depth of field is very, very shallow. Sometimes it almost looks like they're shooting against the green screen. Sometimes it's kind of crazy that way.
Yeah, I mean they're talking about the L-Mount Alliance coming out with all of these lenses, so I'm sure there's a 20 to 50 and a 50 to 100 for the full frame with the nice focusing clutches and a 1.8 aperture on the horizon. I'm sure that's in development.
Yeah. And when can we expect that, Trish? Maybe Umar knows.
Oh, you're not going to trick me into giving away any confidential information this time, Dave.
Dang it, we weren't sly enough. We'll get you next.
So we talked about like shooting these cameras in a little like low light and a little higher ISO capabilities. But what has changed with the IBIS, the internal in-body stabilization mechanism, to allow for stabilization improvements, especially in boost mode?
Oh, we also have new Active IS, which is geared toward people who want to shoot handheld while they're walking. So no longer do you have to spend money on a gimbal, especially if you're on a small budget, because the Active IS is so stable. It works in conjunction with our dual IS and our boost IS and electronic IS. So now you have so many different options for stabilizing the camera.
Now, is there any penalty to doing boost IS? Sometimes I ask questions knowing the answer.
There is a crop. What was it, like a 1.18 or something like that? It was.
It's minor, but yeah, it's there. It's there.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense. I mean, this is an electronic stabilization, right?
I mean, all things considered, though, in our video, we did a torture test. So we had a NATO rail cage, and I was just whipping down the slopes freehand with the boost IS, and it worked like ridiculously well. There's a few shots where you can see like my skis are just like and shot is perfectly smooth. So it's putting in a huge amount of work. So yeah, still very much.
There's actually a local Calgary gentleman by the name of Alex McInnes, the car creative, who is shooting S5 IIX handheld out the window of a Porsche, going through the mountain
Yeah.
passes and roads around here. So, he was just raving about how stable it is, to get those car shots that he needed. He didn't need a gimbal or a car mount or anything like that.
Well, I mean,
so again, our customer is that solo creator that, like I said, maybe on a budget. So if we can give you what you need in camera without having to spend a lot of extra money on accessories, that's what we want to do.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but even without the Boost IS, it's still like, what, 7 stops of combined stabilization between like the IBIS and the lens. So like 7 stops is already insane. I was used to freehand shooting with like 4, and I thought that was incredible. So like it's just tacking on even more. It's just where's the at what point are we going to see like the DJI, like the little gooseneck on the Panasonic cams?
Well, I mean, there's still a time and a place for a proper gimbal to be used, but I always forewarn people. I'm like, it's something else you have to carry around, something else you have to power, something else that's sort of you have to address how you set up, how you're going to make it work. So if you're traveling and you want to travel light, having that Boost IS certainly is a huge factor when it comes to considering a camera.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
All right, let's work our way down here.
So many questions.
So many questions you got going on here. What do we start with here? Let's go. Oh, this is kind of an interesting one because I've used this more than I thought I would, but what happened to the 6K photo modes? Neither the S5 nor the S5 II or GH6 have this mode. Can you explain the mode to our audience and share why we're not seeing in these newer releases? Explain yourself, Trish.
Well, it wasn't my decision. I didn't say, for Canada, we're pulling this out of the camera. No, definitely not. I don't think it was something that was publicized very much. I think it was a great feature in our cameras, but maybe it wasn't being used as much. So, we used the space inside the camera to do other things that we thought our customers might be asking for. We put the internal fan in the body, so it doesn't
that's
overheat.
fair enough. Good trade. Yeah. I would take a fan over top of the 6K photo mode. Well done, True.
I do like how they integrated the fan, honestly. Like it's really cool to have the vents on the top. In the past in R5Cs and everyone else, the side venting has become really common for integrated like active cooling. But the S5 IIX and S5 II, it's not called active cooling. It's what is it? Forced cooling or something like that. So was there a functionality difference, like in terms of the cooling mechanism between like the GH6 and the S5 IIX and the S5 II?
To be honest, I'm not entirely sure about that because I don't have the schematics of both the cameras. But yeah, I mean, the placement is different for one thing. I think in the S5 II, the heat comes off the sensor and the memory cards and moves out through the vents at the top of the pentaprism, whereas the GH6, it's more having to force it out of the camera. So it's much more, I think, smooth operation, intuitive. Almost everyone that's tried it that I've heard back from, they said you can't even hear it. There's so many different options about whether you want it forced on, forced off, only come on when absolutely necessary. But all that, the bottom line is it helps our users get up to 6K video unlimited shooting, right? Which is pretty incredible. And all our cameras are tested to 40 degrees Celsius. It sounds pretty hot, but there's times,
it is.
especially if you're shooting indoors and under hot lights and you can't turn the AC on, it can get up to those temperatures. So we want to guarantee that our customers don't have any overheating issues.
I do appreciate that, honestly. Like, it's one of those little small things that a lot of people kind of overlook or gloss over, where it's, everyone's talking about, I got 4K 60, it overheats at like 20 minutes. I really do like that it's just like, no, there's no overheating issues. No.
Yeah.
Even I just want to add to that. Sorry, Tricia, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Omar.
No, I was just going to add to that for fan thing, you get like different modes for like fan speed and all that. So you can control that if you're in an environment where you want to record audio at the same time. You can control the fan speed, so you don't hear the fan running in the background as well.
Now, have you had experience yourself? Have you shooting in super hot temperatures for extended periods of time?
To be honest, like the longest I ran, the camera running time was like about 30 minutes, 35 minutes. Haven't heard the fan like running in the background. It's like pretty silent. But depending on the room temperature, right? So if you're out in a heat, if the camera starts to heat up or something, then the fan will kick in. But like I said, like up to like an hour or something, again, like depends on the temperature conditions, right? So, but for me, I haven't experienced it so far. But when I'm recording audio with the camera, so I will adjust the fan speed just automatically so it doesn't kick in while you're in the middle of a take or something.
Totally.
Yeah, I mean that's the last thing you want is in the middle of a shoot or take, and
Right.
say you've got a client beside you or something like that, and your camera shuts down because it's overheated. So that can be pretty embarrassing as well as costly if you have to shut down your shoot to wait for your camera to cool down. So that's why we put our cameras through such arduous testing to make sure that they meet those specs: 40 degrees Celsius, unlimited shooting, up to 6K.
Okay. Now, when it comes to audio, has there been improvements with the preamps, with these cameras as they're advancing? And if you could, what's the difference with them?
Do you want me to go ahead?
Yeah, go ahead. Umar. Yeah.
Yeah. So with this, you can record like up to 4 channels. You have like internal microphones, and then if you're doing, let's say, an interview or something, with a Panasonic XLR adapter, you can attach like 2 microphones at the same time. So you get like this way like 4 channel audio. You can record internally like that. So for scenarios, could be like somebody talking, like just one person talking, like let's say a content creator or like a vlogger or something can use like a lav mic. The other one, you can use that to record like surrounding sound, or the other scenario would be like two mics, 2 people conducting interviews, and then 2 internal like microphones in the camera. So then this way you get like 4 channel audio, which is like super cool. Gives you like more freedom and like more control with their Panasonic XLR adapter.
So just to clarify for everyone at home, so when you say 4 channel, are the 2 channels being eaten up like left, right by the onboard microphone, and then the XLR adapter comes on top and we have the 2 additional microphones in there? So we wouldn't be able to do a 3.5 in on the side, 2 XLR inputs on the top, plus the onboard microphone. Is that all correct?
So you get like 2 internal on camera and then 2 external using the XLR adapter like this way. Don't forget, like why XLR, like I would use is like the cables or like balanced cables. So if like let's say a boom operator or somebody's doing boom operation or something with the XLR cables, like whenever the cable moves, that cable is not gonna pick up like the hissing noise, so that's like if you're recording like professional audio, recommendation would be using the XLR cable because they're like balanced cables in terms of sound terminology or something, I would say.
Totally. For the onboard preamps, outside of just the individual 4 channel, was there an upgrade from the S5 II as opposed to like the preamps that are used in the GH6 and the S1 H and everything like that?
I don't think so, Drew. I'm not aware of anything.
Perfect, because I love the audio coming off of this anyway. So we do all recording into the camera, so it's for YouTube. Absolutely nails it.
No, that's fantastic for that. Well, let's go back to the autofocus a little bit here. Should we expect phase detection autofocus in all future models?
That seems like a likely statement, Dave.
I'm giving you the look.
Confirm or deny, but it seems likely, doesn't it?
Actually, we do have a question from the chat. Summer 2015. Not sure if that was a good year or not. Barely remember it at this point. Pre-burst shooting before pressing shutter button. Is it available on the S5 II or the S5 IIX?
No, we don't have that pre-burst mode on there. Unfortunately, sorry.
Yeah, that's part of the 6K photo mode, is it not? Or
Yes, exactly. That was one of the modes.
all right, we got another question
We
coming.
have
This is a hard-hitting one.
96 megapixel mode.
This-
On the,
This one's just going to stir up some controversy here. It says, does this camera
Okay.
perform better video than the Nikon Z9?
I mean, obvious.
I mean, here's the thing. We have so many options on the market now for amazing quality video cameras. You know, how do we set ourselves apart? And what, you know, how would you defend yourself against that? Why would I go Panasonic over looking at other brands?
Well, first is our specs, our size, our price, our reputation in the video market, I think sets us aside or apart from our other competition. So, these really, for the price they are, you get so many features that are not available in cameras twice their price. Just things like waveform monitors, shutter angles, simple things like that are not available in other cameras that make the life of the videographer so much easier.
There's so many things.
especially talking about the codec, like 10-bit internal, like 422. It was Panasonic, and then everybody had to follow the lead. So, I would say that Panasonic knows when it comes to video. And like Tricia said, for the price point, what you have in your hands is like you're getting amazing like image quality with like 14 stops of dynamic range. So you can never go wrong with that.
Yeah, the 14
Now you
stops
can
was
take
absolutely. Yeah, go for it.
I was gonna say, and then you can take all that money you saved and buy more lenses.
True.
And I mean, that being said, I mean,
With the lenses too, I want to add, you have more options now. You have the traditional Leica lenses, and then there's a whole selection of like our Panasonic lenses for the L mount, and then our third-party partners like Sigma, they're also making L mount lenses. So when it comes to price point, there's no excuse anymore.
yeah, so it's all part of this L mount alliance that's going on here. That
Sigma.
yeah, this
Panasonic.
this is all fantastic, and Leica,
Leica?
right?
And Light's Cine lenses, don't forget that as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
So there's actually 65 lenses available in the L mount universe right now. So it is a wide variety of focal lengths and apertures and price points, so there's something for everyone. Whether you can't afford the Leica price tag, there's other options for you.
And with all the Canon users out there, with the Sigma MC21, right, Trish? I believe that's the adapter. You can adapt all your Canon lenses to Panasonic, the S lineup as well. So
That's really
That's
good.
another
Now,
option.
are all the L mount alliance lenses, are they optimized for phase detect autofocus already? Are they going to require firmware updates? And what kind of support do you have for the Leica and Sigma lenses?
So all of the Panasonic lenses have been optimized for phase detect. When this camera was announced, the actual team at that handles Sigma reached out to me to borrow our cameras. So I'm assuming that they tested it with their lenses as well. So we should expect firmware updates from them or in the near future, hopefully. And I don't know about Leica. I can't speak to the Leica whether they are planning anything. But because we work so closely together with them, I assume that it's already been discussed.
Now, you guys are very ambitious with your firmware updates in a camera. We've seen the camera sort of reinvented, and massive updates. Are we going to expect any big updates to the S5 lineup anytime soon? And what kind of features can we expect, Trish?
You're trying to trick me again, Dave. But we actually have very, very soon the update is coming out that will enable the live view composite feature, and that will enable the B-RAW, because we announced it a few weeks ago, but the actual firmware itself is coming out very, very soon, so that will be available for customers.
Nice. I remember with the GH5, it was hilarious. Chris and Jordan first grabbed it and they started to shoot their review, and then it was just like firmware update. Okay, well this completely changes the entire camera. We'll just push back. Next month, firmware update. And it was just like 3 months down the line, they're like, okay, so turns out GH5 absolutely kills everything because. So honestly, I'm really glad that you guys are continuing with the firmware updates. We really like them.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I was kind of curious. A question here, talking about sent to me by email. Here is why did Panasonic switch to phase detector, add phase detector to their contrast? What was the reason behind that?
You know, our engineering team, they had a lot of faith in contrast detect, and they did a lot of testing about situations where it was beneficial, but our customers really, really were asking for phase detect for a long time. So it's something that, all the Panasonic companies around the world, we brought to the product planning team in Japan, and we said, our customers are asking for this. What can you do? So it was actually, people think these changes happen overnight. They don't happen overnight. It was many years of testing, getting the right products, the right sensor, the right engine that would be able to handle all this. And it all coalesced and came together in the S5 Mark II. So, I'm sorry to all our customers that it took us so long, but it's finally here. And we're able to offer you the best of both worlds, that phase and that contrast, as well as the new human face and eye detect as well.
Okay.
I mean, we were playing around with that a lot today. So, the 100 to 400 and everything else. So, Dave was quite impressed with the autofocus system.
It is. It actually works. I mean, when I experiment with the camera and I try it, we were doing the work with the new Leica SL 1-400 today, working on a review on that. We took it to the zoo, and it was a complete zoo. There was 6 billion kids there, so our talking points are a little bit loud. But yeah, it's always so impressive nowadays to watch how cameras find things. They quickly, the crosshairs go over top of a person's face, and once it latches on, it's really quite good. And I like that we're seeing advancements all the time with autofocus, because it's making shooting subjects easier and easier to deal with. And we're seeing, shallower and shallower depth of field lenses being used as people do walk and talks, and it's a nice cinematic look that we get there. Now, speaking of lenses, what is your favorite lens, Umar? What's if you had the choice? Let's say give you 3 lenses to choose from, and that's it. That's all. What do you got?
For, let's say, if I'm shooting events, I would go for 24 to 72.8. That's going to be my go-to lens. I really like the 51.4. Like I love bokeh, the shallow depth of field, so you can never go wrong with that. And then recently, I've been playing around with the 18 mil. That gives you like dramatic look on a full frame. If you want to do some dramatic like landscape shots, so these are the 3 lenses I pick, like personal choice, but everybody has a different,
I mean, it's tough to compete against
yourself?
that 50. That 50 is it's pretty good. We used it a lot for our reviews, and it's hilarious how on a micro four thirds 1.7, I'm so used to 85 just taking away the background. But that 50, it was like I could have them standing in front of anything and just completely remove the back. It was like AI on like a Zoom call, just like, nope, nothing behind you. And they were pretty close often, within a few feet. It's just, so the depth of field and the quality on that lens, I agree with you. The 50 is really good.
Well, let's you and Umar fight this out. And what is the
50?
Sorry, Umar.
Sorry, no, go ahead.
You guys can fight this one out, but what is like the top, let's say top 1 or 2 features of the upgrade to the S5 IIX over the S5 II?
I'm gonna have to say the LUT library. Like the honestly, every time we talk about these cameras, that's the feature that just pops back into my head, just because of how much time it saves me. We're doing YouTube videos, so it's not like I'm spending hours grading footage. It just, I don't have the time to do it. I can't mask and control environments and really delve into it. So LUTs are a really easy way of like matching footage across the board. and being able to preview everything and actually be able to see it direct in camera and have it baked into footage, I would still say that's my favorite upgrade, honestly. Sorry, Phase Detect.
And what about you, Omar?
I would agree, lots. It will save you a lot of time in camera, rather than relying on, post-production color grading and all that. So I would agree, like lots, for me as well.
All right. Let's say, go ahead. You got a question?
Oh yeah, just got a question here. This is going back a little bit to audio. Someone's wondering. So when the XLR attachment for the top is on the camera, does that replace the 3.5, or can you still use the 3.5 audio jack on the side?
You can, yes. You have to. Like if you're recording like internally in the camera.
Okay.
So you could
You could
run like
if you're running. Sorry, like I was just gonna say that if you're running long cables, like let's say on a boom or something with the XLR, so then the XLR adapter is gonna be like the go-to in between, like which is gonna help you get a clean audio without like any hissing or something. That's how I would do it. And then from the XLR adapter, you can go directly into camera using the 3.5 millimeter.
Yeah, so with the XLR adapter, you can run two XLR inputs.
Yeah.
So if you're in a scenario, let's say at a concert or something, and you have a boom microphone, you have a feed coming directly from the soundboard, you can also plug a wireless go-to combination into the 3.5.
Oh yeah, actually that's just out of curiosity, if you've tested this, when you're using the XLR adapter and you plug an audio feed into the 3.5, have you had any sort of issue if it's a stereo versus a mono, or does it still record both tracks simultaneously?
Are you talking about getting a clean feed out from the mixer or something, let's say, for instance?
Well, so we use the wireless Rode Go-2s, so it's going to be sending out a stereo signal left-right channel. So if we have the XLR adapter plugged into the top, and we have two XLR feeds going in there, say like a boom mic and a backup or something like that. And then we plug the Rode microphone into the 3.5 on the side as well. Is that 3.5 also going to record both of those tracks as well? Or is one of them going to be replaced by
You're talking about stereo versus mono, right? So if the audio is going to be like stereo?
Sorry?
Are you talking about if the audio is going to be like stereo, not mono?
Yeah, exactly.
Like if it's getting mixed together?
Yeah. Are we going to have two stereo tracks?
Are we going to have two stereo tracks, or is it going to record as a mono track for the 3.5?
I think both feeds which are coming are going to be mono.
Okay.
Like I know the adapter gives you that control.
Nice.
Where you can tune in the audio levels. For that, maybe Trish, you want to jump in? I think it's still stereo. Like that's how I look at it, to answer your question. Internally, when it goes in, even though you're getting like 4 channels of audio, but it's getting baked into your video track. You're not going to have like 4 separate like monofiles or something like that. That's, if to answer your question, that's
perfect. No, that's perfect.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
That's cool. All right, so let's say money's no object. Is there an advantage to stepping up into the S1H compared to the S5 IIX?
Ooh, that's a tough
Look, you're
question.
smiling, Umar. Look at you. You're like beaming away over there.
S1H? S1H? What?
I think it comes down to personal preference as well.
Right.
The S5 IIX, obviously the cost is lower, the size is smaller. There are a few features like the wireless and wired IP streaming and the USB to SSD recording that are not available in S1H. So you really have to look at your needs, your budget, and then figure out which camera is right for you.
I mean, when the S1H came out, we took a look at it, and I was like, "This is an EVA1. This is a smaller EVA1." So you're getting the punch of a cinema cam, just in a smaller body. That alone, it's really tough to compare cameras without having the footage side by side. because you start getting into like bit depths and the minuscule dynamic range, and then cine colors versus the like the Vlog L versus the full Vlog and all of that stuff. So there's so many crazy things. Honestly, the S5 IIX, I took a look at it and it kind of filled everything. If someone was looking at essentially going, okay, I need a GH6, but I need it with a full frame sensor just because I like the look of it, or I need the ISO, or I need the dynamic range or something like that. The S5 IIX basically ticked every one of those boxes. So for me, that was the kick versus the S1H. I looked at it, I was like, if you need a small form cinema cam, there you go.
Now, we're looking for like the cameras, like people that are doing like documentary style kind of stuff. Are we rigging these cameras up in a really big way, or are we going to look for different options when it comes to that?
Yeah, I like to walk around the zoo with a 35-pound shoulder rig with a D-tap battery, and I can't. No, keep it small.
I mean, I guess that's part of it. I mean, Panasonic has always made some smaller cameras, and nowadays as technology gets better, we talked about the Rode Wireless Go 2 microphones. I mean, back in the day, we used to have two filmmaker kits on top with the XLR, and it just built up the kit so much bigger. Now, with a variety of the 2-into-1 wireless mics, you can keep your system very, very small and very discreet. I mean, we barely even got, nobody recognized me today at the zoo, so.
What about Umar? Did you did your kit condense when you switched over to the S1H, or did it increase in size?
I know if you talk about ergonomics, I call like S1H, like it's like meant to be on set, like it's like more, like I call it a tank, It's like that's how I would call it. Like it's meant to be, at rough scenarios or like rough conditions. But if you talk about, let's say, image quality, like all the raw outputs you're getting with the S5 IIX as well, right? So like these days, like especially with the S5 IIX, you're getting like pro video features, like in the palm of your hand. So. I think it's your personal choice when it comes to that. Like, two different scenarios. Again, like if you look at the size, like S5 IIX, like ergonomically is like a little bit compact than the S1H, so tiny bit.
Just a tiny bit.
All right, so we're talking like all kinds of like Vlog, LUTs, all kinds of like tech talk that you guys are just getting a little too excited about, actually. What about like more of the simpleton? What about a guy who's like, let's say he's a photographer who's getting into video? Are these cameras that would be great for like an entry-level videographer? And what kind of features would you guys recommend, or the feature set you'd recommend, or starting off with?
See, even if you look at for like video features, broadcast like standard, you can still use the S5 II. You can still record like internally, like with the S5 II. You have that option. But like I said, if you're that content creator and then you want extra control, like you like creating your own color grades based on the footage, then I would go for the S5 IIX with the pro video features. For shooting open gate, doesn't matter, like you're shooting on both. The other thing is with the 5.9K RAW 12-bit to ProRes RAW or versus the B-RAW, the advantage you get is like if you want to do, let's say you have a medium shot of somebody and you want to you can crop into a close-up shot of somebody because of the power of RAW, and then the 5.9K or 6K. You follow what I'm saying? You get like more leverage, you get like more options this way. So, that's how I would position it.
So you can create multiple camera shots from
exactly, yeah.
Their footage. So from one camera, you create the illusion of having a multicam setup.
Correct. You get that advantage, yes.
For someone who's starting off, or very early on, maybe who doesn't have the same technical knowledge that Umar and Drew have here, like myself and Dave. There's a lot
Trish,
of
don't let me down. You got more knowledge than I do.
There's a lot of great features on here that are easy to use. And one good thing about our cameras is we put a lot of features on the buttons themselves, so you don't have to dig through menus to find them.
Sure.
So I think it's maybe easier to learn how to use them in the beginning because they're all labeled, they're all on buttons. You can start with as little knowledge or as much knowledge as you have and go from there. I learned my first camera was a GH3. And I learned on that. So I think they're very intuitive and they're easy to use for people who are just getting started.
I agree. Like, I love the fact that the buttons are labeled. There's a lot. I know the age of like programmable everything is upon us, and you have to spend solid 3 hours setting up your camera to exactly the spec. Honestly, being able to just pick it up and go, okay, white balance, ISO, exposure comp, the big red button probably is record, and this one's probably my shutter button. Okay, we're good. Like, there is something to be said about that.
100%. I mean, I have to admit this, Trish. I don't know if your cameras are the sexiest cameras on the market, but they are one of the most functional cameras on the market. And everything's so well labeled.
That's what we were going for.
Well, let's go one step back even. This can be used as a plug-and-play webcam, can it not?
Yes. Yeah.
So let's say we're not into making movies or using Vlog or using the LUTs and all this stuff. We just want to plug it into our computer. We can just simply plug it in by USB-C, put it onto a stand, and we have amazing autofocus. We have amazing footage and a great sort of look to it if we want to make it.
Look at that. Perfect. Most compact
kind
webcam.
of webcam overkill.
And it does take photos, as I always tell everyone. Yes, it takes photos.
24 megapixel full frame sensor. I mean, I guess it's probably okay.
We did a review on the S5 II a little while back, and we were shooting everything from hockey to I don't know what else we shot on that episode, right? But
caribou, skiing, hockey.
Oh yeah, that was that. Yeah.
There was that.
That episode, yeah. So many episodes, I can't keep track anymore. But yeah.
And we have our 96 megapixel high res mode in both the cameras as well. So if you are, say, a landscape photographer or fine art, you want to do fine art reproductions, and you need that extra resolution, then it's available in the camera. And
can you explain a little bit how that works? I mean, we're starting with 24 megapixels, and why and when would I use that high res mode?
So the camera is with sensor shift. It takes 8 photos in quick succession and layers them all in camera. So if you're talking about someone who doesn't really know a lot, who's just starting out and maybe is not good in photo editing, they don't have to do photo stacking in post. It does it all right in the camera for you. And then mode 2 is available as well. So say you are outside and there's a little bit of a breeze and you see some leaves moving on the trees. If you put it in mode 2, the camera is going to eliminate anything where there is motion blur. So it may end up with 4 photos or 5 photos stacked instead of 8. So you would get a smaller resolution file, but you wouldn't have any motion blur in it. So there's 2 options you can choose from. And like I said, it's great for people who want to take those landscape photos with tons of detail in them, or someone who's doing macro shooting or fine art reproduction where you really want that extra resolution. They really come in handy for that.
No, I really appreciate it. I really like that high-res mode because for most people's needs, right, a 24 megapixel full-frame sensor is sufficient resolution for vast majority of things we need to do.
6,000 by 4,000 res. I mean, right. Yeah, that's.
But if you to have that option is fantastic because we're also dealing with much smaller file size. I mean, we have 100 megapixel cameras on the market, but when you have to go to your computer for them, right? You let the smoke out is what happens.
Honestly, dealing with 100 megapixel files is it's intense. It's hilarious every time we do like a Fuji or Hassi episode with the medium formats, and even with the S5 IIX. The moment I put those high res files into the timeline, I just see my render bar just go. It's just,
Yeah, 24 megapixels is like the happy file size.
it really, it really is. I like the 24 megapixel more. But
Jesse just says he's got the S1R for photos. So actually, today we were doing a review on the new SL100 to 400 from Leica. And so Jesse, I switched from the S5 II up to the S1R to do our high resolution shots and see as far as sharpness goes. So be on the lookout for that. Tomorrow morning you're getting that episode edited.
I have to sleep,
Yeah.
I mean, yes, the TCSTV edit bot will get on that. Yeah.
All right. Well, we're kind of coming to the end a little bit here, but I want what is your sort of top reason to sort of look into this camera, and who is this camera marketed for specifically?
So our team in Japan really wanted to help out the solo creator. So that person who may be a one-man band, or one woman, who's doing it all themselves, and who's on a budget, or who doesn't have all these technical knowledge because they haven't been doing it for years. So maybe they're just starting out. But we really wanted to make it easy for people to just pick up this camera, even if they've had no experience with Lumix, and start using it. So there's tons of features that will help streamline your workflow and make it easy for you to just pick it up out of the box and start going.
And Umar, what would you have to say about that as well? I mean, what's your reason for going for Panasonic over all the different brands in the market?
For the price point, the kind of image quality you're getting, like I said, 14 plus stops of dynamic range, 12-bit RAW, 10-bit internal recording as well. And now with the S5 IIX, with the upgrade on the S5 II, you get the option for recording ProRes internally. On top of that, recording directly on an SSD drive, that's the reason why I would go for Panasonic anytime in the market right now.
Excellent. So you can attach an SSD drive directly to it through USB-C and use that as a recording device?
Yeah.
Blows my mind. It's fantastic.
Honestly, the fact that it's not in more cameras is kind of baffling to me. It's like, it's the simplest solution. You barely have to do anything to rig it up. Like, it seemed like such a simple and elegant little solution. So,
Yeah. Let's not forget one of the biggest things about this camera is full-size HDMI. I mean, again, all videographers that I know of, and even myself included,
100%.
I'm like, is that micro? Is that mini? What is this? It's full size.
yes.
It's full to full. Just grab the full to full cable, and we're off we go.
I love how there's literally a cable bag now that I can just condense anytime that it's Panasonic. It's like, what are we doing today? Panasonic? Okay, just grab the full size. We're good.
It just simplifies your life, and I think that's where Panasonic really comes into. You hit on the head earlier there, Trish. It's a camera that anybody can pick up, regardless of your skill level, and start achieving some very professional-looking results. But if you are a professional, you want to get more, this camera is going to take you a lot longer on that journey.
Don't forget LUTs, right? So with LUTs, like even you don't know pro color grading or something, like I said, you can buy LUTs or you can download LUTs for free. Using those LUTs, you don't need to rely on a lot of post-production. You can do everything internally in the camera as well. So that's another big plus point.
Perfect. And Trish, to you, when are we expecting these cameras to hit shelves?
So we are getting a very tiny shipment this month. So some of the back orders will start to get filled, but most of them will be arriving in July. So if you didn't get a call saying that your camera is here this month, please just rest assured it's coming very soon, and it will be in Canada in July.
That's fantastic. Well, awesome. All right, we're going to wrap some things up here. Umar and Trish, so much thanks for joining us today. I appreciate you guys staying up super late in Toronto there. You got a couple hours on us there. And thanks for joining us on the other side of the camera today,
you.
Drew. Thanks for wearing a hat. Appreciate that.
Thanks to hide my hair.
All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed your content we created tonight. If you got more questions, feel free to email me, and I'll certainly, if I can't answer them, Drew can. If they can't, I'm going to send them off to Umar. We're going to fill his email box full of spam.
All day.
Thanks for joining us, and we will catch you again on our next live stream.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.